who gets really into like thinking of stocks as businesses is, did you run a business growing up, or was this something where you were like trying to do little, you were one of those kids on the playground where you like bought a bunch of candy bar and you went out there and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna give it to you for $5, even though I bought this for $1, so that you like got that understanding? Because a lot of people who have that mindset just operated businesses growing up, and that was just the mindset that they had starting off with.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that are into this stuff were like that, but I wasn't really. Like I didn't have like the candy store in my locker or anything like that at school. I knew people that did, and they're actually quite good entrepreneurs now that I look at what they're up to these days.
Yeah.
But I wasn't like that. But yeah, I honestly wasn't interested in money until I had to start paying some serious bills, which I think is the case for a lot of people. One of the things I will say that has helped actually is I work in, I still have a day job. Like YouTube and investing is not a full-time gig for me. And I work in quite a small company where I'm fairly close to what's going on with the, financial position of the business. Yeah. And I'm sort of involved in a lot of the discussions about, okay, do we increase prices, or how do we have our different sort of subscription tiers and those like actual real business decisions. So yeah. I found that actually very useful to then go and look at, say, another software business like a Xero, which is an accounting business in Australia. I don't own shares in it, but if I go and try to understand that business, I have this sort of background in another real company that I'm working in every day, which allows me to understand that company, and how that works. So that has been quite useful, just working in businesses. And like I say, I have a background in agriculture, so I understand dairy farm businesses in New Zealand very well, and I understand sheep and beef businesses, farms in New Zealand very well. And they're basically commodity companies, and they're no different to commodity companies that we look at in the stock market. The dairy farmers that have the lowest cost of production tend to be the best, most successful dairy farmers over a period of time. Just like if you looked at some gold miner or something, where the lowest cost producer of gold would probably tend to have the best profitability over the long period of time. So it's sort of pulling these various different lessons from companies that I worked in has helped me to understand companies that trade publicly.
Yeah, I think that's actually a very good point. One thing I always I'm a Peter Lynch. When I started reading and understanding investing a little bit, one of the people that I just gravitated to was Peter Lynch. I just loved the way he talked about investing, his interview style. And one of the things he always talked about is everybody has a certain edge to invest in. Everybody, whether it's the industry you work in or the products that you tend to use, but we give up those edge all the time. And just hearing you talk about the fact that, hey, this is the industry that I work in, so it helps me to understand other things. It's an advantage that you have that other people necessarily do not have. And so just that idea of you going through and talking about, this is what has helped me think about that. I always wonder how people get to the outcome that they get to from where they start from. It's always interesting to me to hear the stories of, at work, I have to handle this, and I saw this happening. We had to switch this technology, so now we have to switch this, which is one thing that whenever people especially I work in the energy industry. So whenever people are like, renewables are the future in the next 5 years, I'm like, good joke, because I see this stuff. I actually play with renewables all the time, and I'm like, if you want actual power, it's not happening in the next 5 years. It's just not. So that edge helps you to just make more critical and more mindful decisions whenever you're investing in anything.
Yeah, and it's important that you understand that as well, because I think it sounds like you're someone that probably should almost hyper specialize in energy investing. I would say you should focus on these companies, but that's the thing. A lot of people, like you say, will give away their edge. They'll be they might be a doctor, and then they'll come and invest in your industry, and they'll be talking about renewables, like you say, and you're like, that's a load of crap, or it might be, the other way around. Maybe you work in the energy industry, and then I think Peter Lynch, I forget the analogy Peter Lynch or the example Peter Lynch uses in One Up on Wall Street, but he talks about people going and investing in biotechnology companies, and they work in completely unrelated industries and know nothing about these new drugs or technologies or whatever those companies are doing. So if you've got an edge, I think you should take advantage of it for sure.
Definitely.
I hope you enjoyed that little snippet of the Rambling Mind podcast. If you want more of the Rambling Mind podcast, or if you want to listen to the whole episode that you just heard, go check it out on any podcast listening platform, whether that be Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Breaker, Stitcher. I could go on, but you guys already know which podcast you love to use to listen to. So go check it out. Link down in the description as well. I'm gonna catch y'all later. Peace.